welcome to another part of Dynamo and changing the parameters. So for part 2, like we've discussed earlier, we wanted to first in part 1, copy and paste data from one place to another. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits in doing so. In order for us to achieve efficiency in the process, we want to be able to automate some of this data entry. However, another big topic within this whole data entry aspect is when we go to migrate data. For example, we are within a project, we are transitioning from construction to project handover, and obviously we have to migrate data from our system to the client system. This is going to involve a couple of things, but one of those things is within those parameters, we're going to find ourselves with different URLs. Basically, the links that we're establishing within those parameters, they're no longer valid potentially because we might potentially not be using C drive, or we might not be using the network drive that we're using currently in our systems, and therefore we have to dynamically change all the links. This is going to be a huge thing, and obviously we want to be as efficient as possible. Always take in consideration that we're going to be working with a very, very large model with a lot of assets. So that being said, first part, we're going to set up a parameter or two in order to go into them. And we're going to do the same thing as what we've done before. We're going to change dynamically our parameters. However, this time we're going to deconstruct our parameter. We're going to replace certain things. And you're going to see some things are a little bit back in the memory lane. So we're going to try to kind of do this proactively. We're going to do it together. Sometimes within these Dynamo nodes, I'll be lost for a second. I'll just have to juggle my memory a little bit just to get to the proper nodes. But rest assured, I'm doing that logical reasoning that we've discussed about. So my end goal is really for everybody to receive all this information properly. So once again, we do have a parameter that we set up in the past. We're going to call this one bin 2020 URL to shop drawings ST. Often within a project, we want to relay our objects. We want to create that URL so we can just click on this link and it's going to drive us directly into that document. In this case, it's an empty field. However, we can establish this field to be something. In this case, I'm going to go into my sample folder. I'm going to go into my C drive. Within my C drive, I've created a sample folder just for the sake of this exercise. I did create it. It's no longer there. I'm just going to copy paste it back again. Oh, actually I have it here. It's location 1, sample, and then we have document 1. To add our document to our URL, the easiest way for me to do so, it's really just to take this address bar. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it right here. In addition, I'm going to just add this and then I'm going to type in the rest of it. So basically I have document.pdf, I believe. So it is document1 PDF, my mistake. So we'll just modify this one. I'll just add a 1. So essentially when I click on this, it should open up my document and it's going to find it directly, which is okay in this case. I do have a shop drawing for a different unit, which is just a sample. However, now we're going to simulate that migration of data from one folder to the other. In this case, our location 1 is no longer going to be in the C drive. We're going to now move into the X drive and we're going to go into location 2, sample, and document 1. This would be a simulation of us migrating data from our system into the client system. So that being said, let's just go through the motion to see what we can do and how we would go on about to do some of these things. So obviously I'm going to just copy paste this a couple of times. I'm going to, while they are the same, just want to ensure that we are able to do this dynamically just in the same way that we did it last time. So obviously a bunch of them that contains the same thing. Within our schedules, we have a schedule. I guess I did not save that document, but we're gonna see that we're gonna be able to change this dynamically. I can create another schedule. I'm going to just create a schedule real quick. I'm going to go mechanical equipment, not medical equipment, mechanical equipment. And once again, just creating these as much as possible. Type. And lastly, family. And like I said, I'm not going through the extent of explaining what these are. I'm going to do separately a course based on this. Just, gaining knowledge of the basics of Revit and the whole BIM environment. So that being said, we're just going to populate this, and we can kind of see that we have now these links to our shop drawings. Once again, we can click on this. It's going to drive us right directly into the document, which is exactly what we want to do. However, our C drive is now no longer valid. So we know that we're no longer using C drive location 1. However, we're maintaining the same other part. So what we're going to do is we're going to just change this part. So I'm going to copy paste this down the line. The reason why I want to do this is because when we go within our Dynamo script, we're going to be creating this and in a more automated fashion. Once again, we're going to set things to manual, and once again we're going to go through the notion of selecting certain components. In this case, we're going to select all components of category. I'm going to use the node categories. I'm going to select mechanical equipment. So in this case, mechanical equipment. Once I've selected this, we can kind of see we have our list of mechanical equipment. I am looking for specific parameters. In this case, to gain access to the parameters, I want to go into element. I'm going to go back into element again. And I'm doing this just for the sake of everybody getting familiarized with this whole node aspect in Dynamo. Otherwise, I would be just typing these nodes very fastly and getting to the basics of this. So once again, if I read this parameter and I go BIM 2020, and I am looking for to specifically this parameter, I can see that I'm gaining access to this parameter, which is exactly what we need. However, now we need to rewrite this, just kind of like how we did before. However, we're going to only change part of this string. We're not going to change the entirety of it. We're going to change only part of it. So once again, I can, and I ran out of batteries. Just when you need something, no longer works. I'll try to survive with these batteries for now, but for the time being, I'm just going to set my parameter by name. Once again, we're using the same elements. I'm going to be setting up potentially the same parameter, so I'll just leave it here because I am reusing the same one. However, my values will be a little bit different. So once again, we've created that link. We've used this link a little bit. So within our mechanical equipment, we know that we're changing only part of that link. Am I able to access some of these things? So I do want to just get to the part that I am changing. I am changing the first part, so I will maintain this part of my script. So once again, I'm going to create a string. I'm just placing these things all along the screen. Essentially, we have this, and I also know that I'm going to be changing this for X drive. And I want to go into location 2. That is my secondary location. So obviously we had it in the first location 1 in C drive, sample, and then document 1. I want to be transitioning this link into X drive, location 2, sample, document 1. So everything else stays the same. And the second part, the sample / document1.pdf, we're going to change that dynamically. So obviously we're going to do this usually before we transition the data. We migrate the data from one system to the other. And often we're going to work with the client to know exactly where we are storing these documents and all these related documents as well. So the BIM models and whatever documentation is related to that BIM document, to that BIM model, we're going to be looking at where are we transitioning this data. It could be a OneDrive, it could be a SharePoint website, it could be a Dropbox. I mean, there's multiple ways of doing this. The most important is that we maintain some sense of consistency across the folder structure. So obviously the /sample/document1, we want to maintain this consistency. And obviously we have to plan this ahead of time. That being said, we have to establish what type of structure do we want to have within our folder and how are we going to store the project documentation within that BIM aspect of the deliverables. So once again, a different topic for a different discussion, but we'll get to that basics eventually. So now in order to do this, we're going to take a look at a couple of them. We can modify strings, which is exactly what we want to do. And potentially we want to replace all occurrence of text in a string with another text. Potentially this is exactly what we want to do. So we have these strings. We're going to search for specifically this, and we're going to replace it with this. So now obviously if I don't find anything, it's not going to replace anything. And I'm not going to set this up right away. We're just going to test this. We're going to see what it gives out. Once again, we're going to make this a little bit more better looking down the line. But for now, I'm just kind of doing it on the go as much as possible, just so that we can get to the proper result. If I run this, we can kind of see that now I have these parameters. We can see that my C drive /location1/sample has now been changed to X drive /location2/sample document1. So this is exactly what we were looking for. Nothing else has changed in this sense. So now when we run this, we can kind of see nothing's happened. But if I take a look at my list, I can see all of these families have been modified. These elements have been modified. However, if I go back into my schedule, we can now see that we have exactly this. And while we are loading this, we can kind of see that this documentation is within my X drive /location2/sample/document1.pdf. So this is how we do it. Essentially, we are able to do this proactively. We're able to automate some of this process. And once again, once we're complete, we're just going to clean up this node layout. We're going to get this as accurate as possible. And I believe I can just not deselect, but I can, maybe not. I can dynamically change them. And here I am. I thought I could dynamically just unplug them. But all to say that we are able to do this in this fashion. So once again, we're selecting all elements of a certain category. We can create a list, just like what we did before. For example, I'm going to add another. It's going to be my pipe accessories. I'm going to create a list just like I did before. And once again, I'm going to have multiple items. And instead of plugging it into one, I'm going to be plugging it in multiple. And once again, we can kind of see the end results. We're going to have two lists. One list is going to be for my mechanical equipment, and the secondary list is going to be for my pipe accessories. So once again, when I select my pipe accessories where I've made that change, you can kind of see that I've dynamically changed this link as well. So this is a good way to automate this process where we have to migrate data from one location to the other. Hopefully this has helped you a little bit understanding how Dynamo functions and how we can be a lot more efficient with what we're trying to achieve. Stay tuned for more videos, and I'll try to do these things a little bit more effectively, and I'll try to upgrade my setup so we can have better quality in the videos and sound that I'm providing to everybody. Stay tuned for more, subscribe, and I guess wait for more.